JB here, JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. May 10th, 2024. We have about an hour and a half to the close. Pretty much going to talk about some of the things I talked about this morning, markets, some of the names I've entered, exited, and go from there. But take a look at the SPY, trying to make it, the S&P trying to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight days to the upside. And the Dow is looking to continue its streak of green performance in May. Has closed higher every single day in May. Sell in May and go away. So, you know, it just seems like a continuation of last week. And we have the big CPI data on, I think it's the 15th, right? So is that next? I think it's next Thursday. 1, 2, or maybe it's next Wednesday. Either way, that's going to be a very important number. Still some earnings next week, but I think we just kind of hold the line here between, so we hold 518.50. I think we're good here on the SPY. Like I've been talking about, the key data point, that the amount of stocks over the 50-day moving average on the S&P, it's nearing 60%. So that, I think that bodes well. And then me, the optimist at heart, wants to see the biotechs and the small caps really start to outperform. So hopefully in the next couple weeks that starts to happen. So let me get into some individual names, and first I'll talk about Trupanion. I thought the stock would trade into the 26s, 27s. It did gap up, ran to 26.59 at the open, pulled back around 25 or so mid-morning, and now it's sitting here at 25.76 or so. I'm probably going to sit on my hands for now, but I think it's going to trade over 30 bucks. The story, in my opinion, hasn't changed. If you look at, there's always two sides to the story, and you have the bears who think it's a zero, or it's a fraud, it's a scam, it's coming under competitive concerns, whatever it is. And then the other side, I mean, it just eclipsed a huge plateau of over 1 million pets being insured. There's still a huge addressable market. They have all the infrastructure in place to continue to grow. And I've already talked about in some of my rants about some of the negativity around the name, the negative reviews, the negative, the fact that they're not they're not honoring claims. The Glassdoor reviews, people are people who work there are upset. So it's kind of anyway. So I'm not going to get into all the negativity stuff, but I think there's an opportunity here for upside. So I'm not going to add anything today to my strikes, and still have another week on those my May strikes, and I'll look for other opportunities to play that for upside. DELL. So DELL gapped up at the open this morning, all the way up into the 134s. I was contemplating holding my speculative calls for a move over 135, and then thankfully I locked them in for some profits, and then DELL reversed course. It's trading into the red this morning. Well, into the afternoon. Still want to trade this for earnings, but I'll probably just sit on my hands on this one as well. At some point, I'll add some June strikes. Still have some strikes into next week pending any crazy move. But it's been such a, I guess, herky-jerky, right? Every time it looks like it wants to break out, it reverses course. So I'll count my lucky stars, lock my speculative calls in, and at some point I'll revisit, probably next week at some point. All right, so ENVX. So I just posted this trade just a little while ago. It's in the same circle of names that I've been trading over the last couple weeks. So Trupanion I've been trading for many years. It's one of my top 5 stocks from maybe it's like 2017 or so. But then you had RILY. So I did RILY as a possible short squeeze, made some money there. And then, there's other names this cohort, this group of bears are in. So they're short Trupanion, they're short RILY, and then they're long Overstock, which I talked about this morning and a couple days. I actually like Overstock in that story at some point, but they're also long this name, ENVX. So I get messages and what have you, and I start taking a look at it, and I say, wow, this reminds me of Nikola, NKLA, Trevor Milton. And I was one of the first people who found that stock, or at least discovered that it was like he was a scam, he was a fraud, or what have you. And then everybody else piled on. I'm not going to sit here and pat myself on the back, but I'm not saying the similar here with ENVX, but I just spent 2 hours looking at it. I said, wow, the company has lost like $600 million. It's a SPAC, so it did exactly what Nikola did. The only reason it was a publicly traded company, it found a vehicle to become public, And it's funny, the person who was the owner of that vehicle was the founder of Cypress. It was like a semiconductor company, and this guy's a millionaire or multimillionaire, and he only invested a couple $1,000 in the SPAC, and then came in and revert. Well, you know, and ENVX came into the SPAC as part, and with a 2 billion valuation. So this guy reaped millions of dollars of profits, and he's on the board of directors. And then you start reading his stuff, and it's almost like he wants to will this ENVX to success. So I'll maybe I'll try and do a rant over the weekend when I get some time, just to do due diligence. But it's sitting here at 850 or 860, and stock was in the 20s not very long ago. So to sit here and, you know, it was $12 back in February. So you're like, wow, it's already down quite a bit. Why would you get some puts? And because the more I look at it, I'm like, this is a zero. It's not like a $5 stock. It's not a $2 stock. In my opinion, the stock goes to zero, or fractions. You know, it might be a quarter percent. Trade on the penny stocks for quite some time until eventually it goes to zero. It's supposedly they make these batteries that have higher density. They've been able to figure out how to normally, if you have a high density battery, I guess they warp, and you need to be able to constrain that warpness, otherwise the battery explodes or whatever. So they have a system where they can manufacture the batteries and not cause them to bulge. And I guess because of that, they're able to guarantee a capacity, or a 35 or so percent longer capacity, a bigger capacity than regular batteries, which you know, I'm looking at their sites and I can't find any comparison with a Samsung battery, an LG battery, or any of these other larger manufacturers, or the manufacturers that actually are putting batteries in phones. So to me, it's almost like a pipe dream. So then you start looking at all the tweets and stuff. It just reminds me of Nikola. And then I go look, and the CEO of ENOVIX, he came from a Micron, which is great. So it almost adds some legitimacy to the company. But then I look, I mean, he's getting paid millions of dollars. The company generates no revenues. And then he does a similar to what Trevor Milton used to do for Nikola. He used to come on and do Ask Me Anythings on Instagram to combat the bears. And ENVX has a 30% short interest. So it's similar to Nikola. Again, here's the CEO of this company coming on. They have no product, no revenues. They have press releases that are generic in nature. They just announced with their recent earnings, they have an agreement with a top 5 OEM phone manufacturer, the top 5 in the world, and they're sending out samples to 6 of the top 8 phone manufacturers on the planet. It's like I can send 6 of the top phone manufacturer samples of my pizza, right? And then send it in a PR, and I can have a one point. It's like a $2 billion company. So I can go on a rant for a while. I'll try and do it over the weekend. But to me, it's a dual purpose. I, just in case there is some pullback in the market, it offers a hedge. There's some time there, and at the same token, I think it's a zero. So you know, I mentioned Nikola. I think I posted in the chat room. I haven't interacted with Hindenburg Research since back at the Nikola days. He actually direct messaged me on Twitter. This is back before he really got infamous, but a lot of it was because of Nikola, which I found before him. But we're not going to get into that argument. But I messaged him today on ENVX, and I'm not going to say he's going to get in and post a piece on it, but just shows my conviction. I think it trades under $7 in the coming weeks. So that's ENVX, not a name. You know me, I'm an optimist. I'm a bullish. I'm a bullish by nature. I try to find the best in things, but then when on the flip side, it takes a lot for me to be negative a stock, or buy puts, or at least when I say buy puts, not just to trade for a couple days for a hedge, like some of the names in the semi space, like Broadcom or MDB, which I've traded for put hedges. I still think those are great companies that are going to go higher. But for me to have conviction in names that I think might go to zero, it doesn't come very often, you know. And you know, I was posting about MNDR since Tim's brought it to me in the chat room a couple weeks ago. That thing went all the way up to $30. It's sitting at 237 right now. I wish it had options when it was all the way up at $30. I would have gotten puts on it. And you know, I looked at that one. I said, this is. I'm not saying it's a fraud per se, but it's definitely, there's issues. The company had spelling issues on their website. It's a publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. That's unacceptable, right? I mean, if you're in charge of the company and that's who you employ to maintain your portal and your brand, and you allow that to happen, to me that's unacceptable. But they accepted it, and they went public, millions of dollars. 4 million, well, $4 was the IPO. I think their valuation was like 500 million at times. Like, that's crazy. So, I'm not saying I'm guarantees that ENVX is a fraud or scam, whatever. Mana Doctor, maybe it is the best, Southeast Asia teledoc company on the planet, and it's gonna trade up into the hundreds and thousands of dollars and a $10 billion valuation. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I don't think I am. So anyway, that's rants for other days. So a couple other things I want to talk about. Fiverr added some later dated strikes. It's up here at 2350. Really love the story here, especially the fact that the stock is kind of traded at lows here in April. Found a bottom down at 20 bucks right before earnings, and now it's starting to trend higher. 200-day moving average 24.96. Closed over the 50-day yesterday. I think it heads 25 plus now next week. So if that happens, I'll lock some of my closer strikes in, and I'll continue to hold the later strikes and go from there. I just put AVAV up here. Disappointing. I had the May 165s, sold those for some gains. I think it was 100%. Then it closed lower. I kind of took it off the radar, and then sure enough, was it due? It embarks on a crazy run all the way up to 190 bucks. So my 65 strikes, I think I'm for $2, all the way up to nearly 25. So a 20 bagger. What are you gonna do? I'm not gonna cry over spilled milk. But if you take a look at the chart, it's actually kind of right at resistance. So let's see if I can post it in the chat room. But that 190 handle, maybe definitely. I'm not going to add anything just yet, but if it pulls back, maybe it goes down to 170 or so, I'll look for some calls played for upside. That's AVAV. And VKTX. I mean, it's down 6% today. There's no news, no catalyst. Unfortunately, you look at the candles, very tight candles on VKTX, and then all of a sudden we have this pull. And I started looking. Last couple days I've been looking for some later dated strikes after I locked some of the June 100s in, and I'm like 130s, 135s, 140s. I posted a little link to the MASH comparison between MDGL this morning. So I'll probably just be patient. Still have skin in the game per se. So it doesn't make sense to just rush in and add some more strikes here. A little disappointing. Similar, 73.52 is the 50-day moving average. We're sitting here at 75.04. Hopefully it holds that. But I don't even know if it's really much of a technical play. Hopefully just maybe there's some news over the weekend or whatever, it can catch fire and finally hold the 80s, which, again, closed over 80 for the first time since March yesterday, and then today can't hold it. So very disappointing, but still optimistic on the name. Not going to change not changing my bull thesis on it. And this weekend, one of these weekends, it could be M&A. It doesn't have to be VKTX. Could be Turns. It could be Altimmune, which announced earnings this week and issued some updates to stocks rallying. GPCR, which is the next company that's going to have oral data for GLP-1. And yeah, so that's it. Got about 1 hour, 15 minutes to the close. Let's have a great day, folks. I'm going to try to have a quick rant on ENVX. I mean, just so you understand my thought process and rationale, it's rare that I have a convicted bear put position on a name that doesn't trade with the market, right? I think ENVX is a zero regardless of what the market does. That's rare that I have a put position. So I'll try my best to kind of explain that a little better than I did on this rant. And that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.